Hello, everyone. Welcome to our meeting today. This is another meeting in our underclassmen series. Today with this meeting with me is Janelle, our Vice President for ACM. Today we will discuss time management. And I will start with some general announcements for ACM. And if you have any questions throughout our meeting, you can feel free to type them in the Slido or in our YouTube channel. So make sure to sign into this meeting because at the end of the semester, we'll be raffling some prizes. And the more times you sign in, the more times you attend these meetings is one more entry towards that final prize. So just a general reminder to pay your dues. It's $20 and you can pay them by going to the ACM website, the UTSA ACM under the tab Join. I also wanted to mention that we are collaborating with Youth Code Jam. We want volunteers to register to help them out. We want these volunteers to help teach a workshop. It would be around 30 minutes and it would be centered around a programming language or concept or any tech related topic. There's also an opportunity to be a coach for beginner, intermediate, and or advanced project making sessions. Another opportunity is being a judge for a project. And we have more information here. We have a link for you to register to volunteer. We're working with the professors at UTSA to see if they could offer some sort of extra credit for students who volunteer. But you can always message or email your professor and ask them if this opportunity could bring you extra credit for their class, but we are working with them to get that figured out. We will keep y'all posted on that. Some upcoming events are, give me one second. Oops. Some upcoming events are ICPC in their weekly Saturday meetings. We have Variety Creators Sundays from 3 to 5. We have the ACM, the Women's Chapter's second meeting will be Tuesday. We have the general ACM meeting on Wednesday. You should look at the router link and ACM social media platforms for more information and for the Zoom link to join. So please attend those. And oops. Okay, I'll pass it back to Janelle on this one.
Yeah, let me, and I just wanted to clarify, I didn't make it very clear on the slides, but the ACM and the ACM-W meeting, they're not like tomorrow as in Tuesday. The ACM-W meeting is a week from tomorrow, and then the ACM meeting is a week from Wednesday, just to clear that out for you guys. But yeah, that's all of the events we have going on. But now we're going to get into our time management workshop, which is what all of you came here to see, hopefully. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start it by taking a self-assessment. So this is going to tell us kind of like how well we manage our time. So if you have the chance and you have a phone with you, scan this QR code and you can pull up the poll on your phone, or you can go to this link, which I will be dropping in the YouTube chat. And then I'm going to switch my screens really quick so that we can see what everybody says with their responses. So let's see. All right, I'm putting the link in the YouTube chat. And we will also, like I said, be getting to see everybody's responses. So that will be
It says it's paused, you know.
Okay. All right, can you see the polls now?
Click the play button down the bottom left.
Can you see my screen with the poll? All right, so the first question that we are going to be doing is I do things in order of priority. So I already see some results coming in. It looks like some people are pretty good, you know, always doing things in order of priority. I'm kind of the type to put off things that I don't necessarily want to do that moment. They might be harder. So that's maybe where sometimes the people who are voting sometimes come in. So it looks like we have a lot of sometimes and a few always, which I definitely align with that. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next question. I accomplish what needs to be done during the day. So this means I get all my tasks done that I need to get done for that day, and I'm not staying up till like 3 a.m. trying to finish something, which I know can be kind of challenging, especially for us like tech majors who usually have weird sleep schedules. And so that's definitely something that puts me in the sometimes category. And it looks like a lot of other people have their own reasons for putting sometimes too. So we're going to move on to the next question. So if you have a vote, make sure to get that in last minute. The next question is, I always get assignments done on time. So do you always turn everything in, or are there a few things that maybe you have to ask for an extension on, or maybe you're a little bit late and you get docked points, or maybe something that you just absolutely forget about? It looks like we're pretty split even on this one, about half and half, always and sometimes. I'm definitely, I think I would fall in like that always category, but there are a few things that can surprise me at the last minute. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the next question. I feel I use my time effectively. So this is more of an opinion for you and how you feel that you're at throughout the day. If you think that you're always using it effectively, and keep in mind, effectively doesn't have to mean you're constantly doing work. Effectively can mean sometimes you're taking a much needed break or something like that. So it looks like we have our first few nevers, which can be something where people are feeling like they're never doing enough or something like that. I promise you, you're probably doing more than you think you're doing. But we're gonna move on to the next one. I tackle difficult or unpleasant tasks without procrastinating. This one's a tough one because I know I'm one of those people too. I see there are people in the sometimes or never where I put off things that I don't like to do or I don't want to do. So this is definitely one of the harder ones to overcome, but hopefully throughout this workshop we'll give you some tools to kind of deal with this. All right, the next one is I force myself to make time for planning. So do you set aside that time the night before, maybe for the whole week, to go and write out when your assignments are due, or maybe you do it by semester and you write out all of your different test dates on a calendar or something like that? Looks like most of us are in the sometimes. I think that's where I would fall. It's kind of hard to do it always because sometimes things don't go according to plan, but yeah, we're gonna move on to the next one. I spend enough time planning, always, sometimes, or never. I think this one's a hard one to gauge because I don't think you're necessarily thinking about the time you spend planning, but again, hopefully after this workshop, we become a little bit more like self-aware of how much time we're spending planning versus procrastinating at the end. All right, some people always spend enough time. A lot of people are sometimes. There's sometimes people who never spend enough time planning. The next one is I prepare a daily or a weekly to-do list. And again, this is something where we want to stress that you don't have to plan out every day to the minute. If you go and you write down a weekly to-do list, like that's good too. So it looks like we have more people that are in like the always or sometimes, some schedulers, so that's good. The next question is, I prioritize my list in order of importance, not urgency. And so what this means is importance is how big something is. So say it's a test, that's very important. But urgency is, okay, how many days away is it? So if it's a test that's tomorrow, it's important and urgent. And you're probably prioritizing by how urgent it is. But if it's a test in a week, it's important, but it's not too urgent yet. So it looks like people struggle a little bit more with this one. It's definitely something that can be hard to do, is look a week in advance and try to make sure that your schedule will be cleared up, because stuff can come up in the middle of the week. So hopefully we'll give you guys some tips to make things that are important not as urgent. I'm able to meet deadlines without rushing at the last minute. So here we're going to see some procrastinators. I'm guilty of it myself, but it happens. It happens sometimes. Okay, we have a lot of sometimes, a few nevers. There's definitely some things that come up, and sometimes you have to do things at the last minute. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. So if you haven't voted, get that vote in really quick. I keep up to date on my homework assignments and readings. So I guess up to date can mean, do you finish them by the deadlines? Do you do them? Do you put them off till like the last minute but still get them done? Like that might still be up to date, but. So it looks like this group, we're getting stuff done, but it might not necessarily be all that time in advance. So keep voting if you can. I'm going to move on to the next question here pretty soon. I prevent interruptions from distracting me from my high priority tasks. This is one that can definitely be harder during COVID, because I know a lot of us are working or studying from home, taking classes from home. And personally, I find there's more distractions at home. So it looks like a lot of people say sometimes. That's probably where I would fall to. I avoid spending too much time on trivial matters. And so what's trivial is really up to you. Trivial for me could be like just scrolling through Instagram. Like it doesn't really matter. I've already seen all the posts, but I'll still do it. So that's a personal example. It looks like, again, a lot of people are saying sometimes. Yeah, we have the same distribution as the last question. All right, I'm going to go on to the next one. I spend enough time on academic matters. Again, this is kind of up to you whether how much time you think is enough, but kind of a good rule of thumb that people say for everybody, now this might not apply to you, is for the hours that you're in class, make sure you're spending the same amount of time or more out of class studying for it each week. So I see a lot of sometimes. Again, same to the last couple questions. I think I would fall into sometimes too. Sometimes there are different social things that I put ahead of academics. But we're gonna move on to the next question here. I plan time to relax and be with friends in my weekly schedule. So this is something where you actually dedicate that time and you say, okay, on Saturday, I'm not going to do any schoolwork, or I'm not going to do any schoolwork for 2 hours. I'm going to go and hang out with my friends or relax or go to the gym. Okay, good. It looks like we're better about like making sure that we're relaxing and we have what we need and everything. So that's good. Though sometimes and nevers, I get it. It can be hard when you feel like you're swamped with work. I have a weekly schedule on which I record fixed commitments such as classes and work hours. So this can look like anything like a planner, maybe you use Google Calendar, maybe just write it down on sticky notes. What do you do to record those commitments is kind of like up to you. But it looks like a lot of us are kind of in the sometimes category. I get everything can't always be planned out, so I can definitely see that. But we're going to move on to the next question. So if you haven't voted, make sure to do so. I try to do the most important tasks during the most energetic periods of the day. So this can depend on you, whether you're a night owl or a morning person. Do you lean into that night owl and you start doing stuff around 10 o'clock and you're good to go? Or do you try to force yourself to wake up early and it doesn't work out? I know sometimes I do that. I try to do work really early in the morning, which isn't necessarily the best thing for me. But it looks like we're pretty good at leading into our schedules and knowing that when we're most productive, we should be doing work. So that's awesome. All right, next question. I can gauge when I need a break. So this goes along with planning breaks, but sometimes you're in the middle of working and you think to yourself, hey, I need a break. Do you know when that point is, or do you just keep working past it? It looks like we're pretty good about this too. We got one like workaholic out there. I definitely feel that. It can be hard to step away sometimes when you just want to get it done. I periodically reassess my activities in relation to my goals. So this is something where, do you think that you are constantly working towards your goals, or do you just get stuck in this schedule and it's just every day, so you just keep going in what you're accustomed to doing, rather than maybe reevaluating and taking a different path? So a lot of people are sometimes. Yeah, it's hard to step back and get that perspective to reassess. The next question is, I have discounted any wasteful or unprofitable activities or routine. So unprofitable, I don't want you to think that spending time with friends is unprofitable. It's not. But maybe have you discounted the amount of times that you scroll through Instagram, or that you watch the same show over and over again on Netflix? All right, so we're more sometimes or never. Hey, someone's up there with always. So somebody's looking out for that wasteful time. But it's hard to tell what's wasteful and what's helpful. So, but like I said, if you find yourself doing something over and over again, you might want to think about cutting it out. The next question is, I screen and group messages, calls, or notifications to allow control over different interruptions. So do you put your phone on Do Not Disturb during class time? All right, we got some answers right away, kind of all over the board. I'm probably in the sometimes. I am guilty of looking on my phone, especially now that it's online classes. But we do have some people that always do it. So good for you. That's definitely something to work for, is to make sure you're in control of your time and you limit your distractions. All right, we're gonna move on. I judge myself by accomplishment of tasks rather than by amount of activity or busyness. So sometimes it can be easy to say, oh, I was really busy that day, like I got a lot done, but maybe you were working on the same assignment all day, whereas it was supposed to take maybe like 2 hours. So it looks like people are good at judging themselves by their accomplishments, so that's good. Nice. All right, next question. My actions are determined primarily by me, not by circumstances or other people's priorities. Again, this might be a hard one if you're from home. Maybe you have family or friends or siblings that are vying for your attention too. But it looks like for the most part, people are pretty in control. We got one never, which I can get. Sometimes your surroundings will make things difficult. We're going to move on to the next question. I have a clear idea of what I want to accomplish during the coming semester. So do you know what you want to get done, or are you kind of just going through the motions? And this is something just to be more self-aware of. That's the whole point of this poll, is to just get you thinking about these questions and become more self-aware of what you are doing versus what you aren't doing. So it looks like we're pretty oriented as far as our ideas go about what we want to accomplish. So that's good. But we're gonna move on to the next question now. I'm satisfied with the way I use my time. This is a big question, and it's kind of what this whole workshop is about, time management. And so it can be hard to answer, but try to give it your best. Are you always, sometimes, or never satisfied with the way you use your time? Okay, so we have more nevers, but that's good. That's why you guys are here. So I'm glad we can all kind of take something away from today. All right, so this is the last question. I want to thank you guys for participating in this poll. And the idea, like I said, was just to get you thinking about different things you do with time management and how happy you are with them. And so the goal with all of these questions, if you can try to think back of how many times you clicked always, sometimes, or never, the goal is to be at sometimes or always for all of these questions. And so we will be giving you some tips and some tricks to kind of migrate from that never to maybe sometimes on some tasks or always on others. So thank you for participating. I'm going to share the presentation again. And I will pass it back off to Vanessa, and she's going to start talking about some of these tools that we can use to get out of those never and sometimes areas into the sometimes and always.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle. Those were really good poll questions to self-reflect on what we should be doing. So I will go over some bad habits that are pretty common. The first one, I think Janelle touched base on it a little bit, is avoiding distractions from your phones. It's easy to get notifications from group chats or social media platforms, and all these small distractions really distract you and take away concentration from you that and time that you should be using to fully focus on the lecture and in studying. So try putting those notifications on silent, or even simply putting your phone on airplane mode during that lecture to really get the most out of that lecture. I think that's a pretty bad habit, and simply putting your phone on airplane mode or turning off those notifications can really help you better focus and get the most out of each live lecture. And also, avoiding overly comfortable places to study is a habit. Try to have a workspace that is not too comfortable, maybe just a normal chair instead of a super comfy one, because it's easy to get sleepy in a bed or a couch or in any other comfortable space. So have a working space where your brain can, think that, oh, this place is for studying and not for sleeping. So that's a good habit to take part in. Also, be engaged in lectures and office hours, especially now with this remote learning. It's easy to kind of sit back and not participate as much in live lectures, but it is very important to ask those clarifying questions, to participate in the live lectures when possible. Of course, sometimes everybody's schedule is different, so your schedule might conflict with one of your classes, so you might have to watch the recording later. But always, when possible, try to watch those live lectures, because it might happen that you will procrastinate and you will leave those lecture recordings, and they'll add up towards the end of the week, and you'll have a lot of hours of lectures to listen to. So you don't want that. Okay, the next slide, we will talk about some of the tools that I found important were the Microsoft Word templates. Microsoft Word is something that all UTSA students have access to, and they have some really neat planners and agendas that are very useful. These are some of the ones that caught my eye the most. They have very, very cute templates where you can organize your tasks and help you take away some of that stress. You can, right here, you can see that you can put in your assignment, the deadline, and it really helps you keep organized. Another resource that I wanted to highlight was Google Calendar. A lot of the events nowadays have a direct access link where you can add it to your Google Calendar. And it's a simple tool that can really help you plan your day out. I also wanted to talk about time blocking for tasks. In your planner and agenda, I think it's important to block your class time, your study time, because when you have them laid out like that, you can kind of see how many, what hours or how many hours you have left over to complete other tasks throughout the day. And it really helps you organize your day and reduce that stress level. And also, it sort of helps you yourself stay accountable to completing those tasks throughout the day. So I think time blocking and keeping an agenda and time blocks of where your time is going to will really help you go throughout your day and plan accordingly. Okay, I'll pass it back on to Janelle on this one. Oh, you're on mute, Janelle.
Yes, okay, I got it now. Okay, so let's see, we're here. So like Vanessa said, what we want to do is time block. So we want to schedule different things during different parts of the day. But how do we do this? How do we determine what we schedule for now, what we leave for later? And so something that we're going to talk about here is a tool to categorize the different tasks you have to do, and it's called the Eisenhower matrix. And so you can see a picture of this matrix on the right-hand side of the screen. And it's a measure of tasks in the form of importance, which is the vertical part of the matrix, and urgency, which is the horizontal part. And so you can see that these different tasks can fall into very urgent and very important, or low importance and low urgency, or a combination of the two. And so what we're going to talk about first is the top half of the matrix. And so like Vanessa said, is what we want to do is time block so that we don't end up at the last minute in this due category where it's high urgency and it's high importance and we're rushing to get something done. That's not where we want to be. The goal is to take those tasks that are in the due category and move them so that they are in the scheduling category, to where they're low urgency, but they're still high importance, so that we're thinking ahead and we're scheduling ahead to make sure that they don't get into that high urgency and high importance. All right, and so that sounds great and everything, but how do we set these goals along the way to make sure that we don't fall into that high urgency and high importance space? And so there are two different types of goals that we'll be talking about. One that you should try to make goals like this, and one that those goals are good, but they're not something that you should be like writing down in your planner that you can focus on a piece at a time. So MUD goals are one of the types of goals, and these goals are motivating, uplifting, and they're dream-based. The problem with these goals is they're not necessarily very applicable or very easily broken down right now. So for example, a MUD goal could be, I want to graduate with honors, or I want to graduate with above like a 3.5. Okay, that's great, but like, how do you get there? And so that's where SMART goals come in. SMART goals is a way to break down these MUD goals into things that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So one of my SMART goals could be that I want to get an A in my computer science class. It's specific to the class that I want to get an A in. It's measurable because they will be providing me feedback through the grade. It's achievable because it's something that I can work towards this semester. And it's relevant to me right now because it's something that I have direct control over now. I'm enrolled in the class now, and I have control over that goal. And it's also time bound for the semester. And so I want you to think of something that you have that's a MUD goal. So maybe it's a career ambition or something like that. And try to break it down into, okay, what are specific SMART goals I can make to try to get there? And this will help you start to schedule things out, because these SMART goals are what you should be writing in your schedule. It shouldn't be some lofty ambition as like, I want to get a job with this tech company. And so that's why we're telling you about these different types of goals, is try to make SMART goals for yourself and try to make sure those are the ones that you write down in your planner so that those tasks don't become important and urgent, and you can stay in that scheduling square of the matrix. So now we're going to talk about the bottom half of the matrix. So this is where the importance is low, but the urgency could be high or low. So if it's low importance and high urgency, I encourage you to try to get help with it. Maybe see if it's some simple task, if you can't get somebody else to do it, or help somebody else do it so it becomes more of a team effort, because it's not very important to you, but it does need to be done. And so that's where that delegate square comes in. But the one that I really want to focus on is this bottom right square, where it's low urgency and low importance. And I know it says eliminate, but we don't want to eliminate everything from our lives that's not urgent and not important, because that sounds like burnout. And so make sure that you are keeping those things that are not important and not urgent, but they still do something to take care of yourself. And so maybe in that sense, they are important, because taking breaks is important. Self-care is important. Socializing. I don't want you to think that we're telling you not to do any of these things, but the things that you do want to eliminate that are low importance and low urgency are escape behaviors. And so what is an escape behavior? An escape behavior is something that you do when you don't want to do your work. And so for me, I know I touched on this earlier during the survey. For me, if I'm not wanting to do my work, I will pull out my phone and I will scroll through Instagram. And that's my escape behavior. And those like 5 minutes can turn into a half an hour if I get stuck down some like thread of videos or something. And so we might resort to these escape behaviors because we feel like we're overwhelmed. We might feel like we're in a bad environment. I know that's more common with COVID because you're working from home. And so escape behaviors may be more likely if you have a lot going around or a lot going on around you. And these can also come from just other daily distractions. So for me, mine's my phone. But the bottom line is that these escape behaviors means you're procrastinating. And that's not something we want to do. We want to be in that scheduling block where we're planning ahead so that stuff doesn't build up last minute. And so I gave some examples of some of my escape behaviors, but I want you to think a little bit right now about what your escape behaviors are. Do you reach for your phone? Do you maybe go to watch a movie on Netflix? And keep in mind that these might change. So what was your escape behavior before COVID versus now? And try to become more self-aware of those behaviors. That way we can push past them. And so that's a lot easier said than done, though. How do we push past these escape behaviors and start to schedule work and do work as it's scheduled? One thing that I encourage you to do is just set a timer. So when you find yourself reaching for your phone or watching Netflix, whatever your escape behavior is, it can be something else too, like maybe you go to the gym or maybe you go for a walk or something. But once you find yourself doing those escape behaviors, try to just get started. So set that timer for 10 minutes and just get started on your work. And if it's something that's a really long task and 10 minutes is nowhere near time enough to finish it, then that's fine, that's great. You started and you've realized that it's going to be a really big task, so you can schedule more time for it. But if it's something that is a shorter task, you've already done the hardest part, which is getting started and getting past those first 10 minutes. And so now you're in a groove and you feel like you can finish this. And that's great. And you have conquered that escape behavior. So I encourage you to think about what you do when you're procrastinating and try to push past it just by setting a timer for 10 minutes and just getting started on something. And so now I'll pass it back off to Vanessa to talk about some more good habits that you can try to develop in order to improve your time management. Vanessa, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, let me share this slide
Okay.
really quick. All right, are the slides back up?
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, thank you, Janelle. So tackling the biggest tasks in the morning, I think is a really good habit to do. This will save you from leaving them towards the end and ending up procrastinating throughout the day. And tackling the biggest tasks will actually motivate you to keep completing smaller tasks throughout the day and to keep being productive with your time. Also, self-care, and also self-care is very important, and knowing to take good breaks, knowing to reward yourself after a long time of studying. A good productive break can be like walking around, taking a snack, listening to music. Longer breaks you can take after a couple hours of studying, a couple hours of completing assignments. You can go to the gym, you can spend some time with some friends to really help you kind of lower that stress level. And also it's important to put a timer on your break, because you don't want to go over and take twice the amount of time you had allocated for your break. So it's a good habit to put a timer on your break so you know when you need to go back to work. And it's also very important to choose your break activity accordingly. You want to do something productive. You don't want to just stay on your phone or scroll through your social media, but walk around, get a snack. This will really help your brain, instead of just sitting down and taking a break on your phone. Oops. Okay, I'll hand it back to Janelle for this one.
Perfect. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, that's some really good advice. So what we're going to do now, this is kind of like our closing activity. So keep in mind, feel free to throw any questions into the Slido, even if they're like specific to you, you don't know what to do in this time management situation. Feel free to ask away. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to make it a little bit more personal, just like we did at the beginning. And we're going to make it personal to you by coming up with a plan for your upcoming week. So whatever scheduling platform you like best, maybe you have a piece of paper that's lying around or a planner that you always use, go ahead and get that out. Maybe you want to try a Word template, so you can open up a Word document, or maybe you've never used Google Calendar and you want to put some stuff in there. This would be a great time to go ahead and log on really quick and open it up. And if you don't have anything already, that's great. That's fine. What you can do is you can scan this QR code, or I will put a link in the YouTube chat to this site. And this is just a very basic planner, a basic scheduling tool that you can use. And so that's what we're going to be using. So I hope this has given some people some time to get out whatever they use to schedule. I know I have my trusty planner. That's what I use. But go ahead and get that out. And if you haven't quite gotten it out yet, that's okay. We'll keep these slides up for a little bit so that you can go ahead and do that. So like I said, this link, you can scan it with your phone, or you can go to it in the YouTube chat, and this will just be a schedule planner that you can use for this final activity. So first, what we're going to fill out in our planners or our online calendars, or in the calendar in the link, is you're going to fill out everything that you have obligated time for, which means you're obligated to go. So this would be all of your classes. Fill in when your class times are. It might be a good idea, even if your classes are asynchronous, you can do them whenever, to stick to when they were supposed to be scheduled. So keep that in mind, but I'll let you decide that. Put in different hours you work. So if you have a job, make sure to block out time for that. And you can either start planning for a day or a whole week. But I suggest you just start with a day so that we can make sure we all get something maybe planned for tomorrow. The third thing that you're going to write down is the time it takes for you to get ready and to travel. So this is something I tend to underestimate. I think that I can get everywhere in no time at all. And so make sure, if you're on campus and you maybe have a lab, or maybe you are going to get food, block out 10 minutes for your walk over. Or if you're at home and you have to go somewhere quiet to get away from your family to study, then make sure you block out time for that. So again, what we're writing down is your classes, hours you work, time it takes for you to get ready in the morning and at night, your different routines that you have, and travel. So make sure you're jotting these down kind of in your planner so that you can get a bit of a schedule going for this upcoming week. The fourth thing is any other meetings or regular appointments you have. And these may vary week to week, but maybe you have a weekly meeting at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays. Make sure to fill that out any days that you have it. The fifth thing that we're going to fill out is one of the most important things. It's lunch and dinner. And make sure that and breakfast. I didn't put breakfast on here, but that's another important one. Make sure that you give yourself time for food prep. Again, this goes with number 3. I like to think that I can get everywhere and do anything, get ready in no time. It doesn't take any time to do that, but it does take time. If you are someone who likes to cook, put in an extra 30 minutes to cook your meal. If you're someone who likes microwave ramen, or that's the budget you're on right now, put in the extra 5 minutes it'll take to prepare it. We want to make sure we're giving ourselves enough time. That way we're not setting ourselves up for failure with planning more than we can actually accomplish. So the last thing that we're going to fill out is a time to go to sleep and a time to get up in the morning. So I really encourage you to try to make a schedule, whether that's you sleep from 11 to 7, or maybe you don't like to go to bed till 2 a.m., but you'll wake up at 10. So whatever that sleep time is, try to set a schedule for it. So make a goal of when you're going to go to bed. That way you don't get stuck procrastinating and everything's building up and you just never go to sleep. So that's all of our obligated time that we're going to write down. Again, your classes, the different hours you work, time it takes to get ready and travel, other meetings, lunch and dinner with time for food prep, and a set time to go to sleep and get up in the morning. And I'm going to pause for a couple minutes just to make sure everybody has time to kind of write these down, or at least think about what your schedule would look like if you put in time for all of these things. So I'm just going to pause and let you do that. I'll give you guys another minute, but hopefully you're realizing that it's going to be pretty filled. Your schedule is going to be very filled with just between sleep and classes. That can be half of your day. And so it's good to realize that you do have a lot of obligations going on. And so you need to budget your time a little bit. And I'm not saying everybody needs to budget everything down to the hour, because we all plan differently. But hopefully you realize that your time is valuable because of all of these obligated tasks that you have. So don't stress if you haven't gotten to write down all of your obligated time. Keep working on that. We're going to go on to part 2, which is free time. And so this is everything that you didn't write down in part 1. So if you didn't finish with part 1, go ahead and stop where you're at and just kind of keep those obligations in mind as we go to part 2. So now we're going to choose how to divide up our free time. And what we really want to be mindful of here is make sure that you have large blocks of time for large tasks. So don't give yourself 30 minutes to finish an entire coding project. Make sure that you give yourself either a large chunk of time if you're somebody that just likes to work and get it all done, or you give yourself little 30-minute sessions to try to get it done. But for this, we're going to write down first time to study for each class. And so I would recommend that you block out short study sessions. So I don't want to see anybody writing down study for history and have a 3-hour block for it, because that's not necessarily achieving what we talked about with the matrix, where we want to schedule things out in different pieces so they don't become that urgent to where we need to spend 3 hours on it. But try to say, okay, I'm going to study for an hour, or I'm going to study for a half an hour. And if you want to study for 2 hours, make sure that you put a break in the middle of there. Like Vanessa was saying, it's important to take productive breaks in order to keep ourselves regenerated and energetic towards these tasks. And the second thing to keep in mind when you're writing down your study time for each class is try to study for classes on the days they meet. So if you have a class that meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday, try to block out a half an hour or an hour on each of those days to study for each of those classes. That way that you see it in class, and then you're going and you're directly reaffirming it the same day with your homework or with your studying, and this will help you retain more information. The second thing that we're going to write down is regular breaks and rewards for completing tasks. So this goes with the first point in number 1, which make sure you have short study sessions. So what you want to do is, if you have class and then you want to study, make sure that after you get those tasks done, or maybe in between them, you schedule a quick 10-minute break to say, this is when the time is that I'm going to go and get a snack, or when I'm going to go and get lunch, or I'm going to just be for a minute, maybe listen to music, watch some TV. But make sure to schedule those breaks according to how much time, like 5 minutes for a snack, or maybe 30 minutes to watch a whole TV episode. And the last one is fun events. This is going to be if you like to go to the gym or you like to play a sport, if you like to watch TV, make sure you put some time in there. Maybe at the end of every night you watch one episode of something on Netflix. Put on times to go out with friends, of course, masks and social distancing, with COVID, but make sure to put that time in there to see other people. And then also time with your family. And so you might be realizing that your schedule is looking pretty full by now. It's a lot between our obligated tasks and our free time to try to balance school and a personal life. But hopefully by writing it all down, you've become more aware of what you have going on and a strategy for getting it all done, which is to do things like take a break, or do things like schedule it out in advance, and do things like use a scheduling calendar, like Vanessa said, using tools from this workshop. So with that, that is the end of our activity. I hope that you got a schedule started, or you were able to apply your schedule and finally write it down and see where all of your time is going. But that is all for that task. Of course, feel free to continue it later, and I hope you find time to plan for future weeks, maybe using the same model. But I would encourage anybody who still has lingering questions, go ahead and throw them out in the Slido. If you don't have any questions, that's okay. I hope we explained it well enough, but if there's something you're confused on, or maybe a personal problem you're having with time management, feel free to type a question in the Slido and we can address it. But I don't see any at the moment, so I will pass it back to Vanessa to remind people about the upcoming events that ACM has.
Yeah, so thank you, Janelle. That was really good information on scheduling and organization. It's very useful information. Thank you. Like I said, here's the QR code for our upcoming events. We have 4 upcoming events. And like Janelle said, the ACM-W meeting and the ACM-W meeting will be next Tuesday, not this Tuesday. And of course, keep checking our social media platforms for notifications and more information. And with that, that concludes it. So thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you on next meeting. Goodbye, everyone.